Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles.
And I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist in Los Angeles. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. So I have a question for you. Do you practice yoga on a regular basis?
I practice it even on an irregular basis. It's one of those things that's on my to-do list.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of other physical activity and stuff like that. I stretch every day. That's kind of the closest.
So I've tried a million different. I've done the hot yoga. I've done the Kundalini yoga. I've tried everything because I know I should be practicing yoga. I had a hard time finding a fit. I did during COVID because I'm on one of these online on-demand workout platforms. There was one program I was doing that had yoga integrated into it, which I enjoyed. It wasn't the very spiritual yoga. It was more the athletic Western version of yoga. But I did enjoy the stretching and the breathing and going through the vinyasanas, I think is the word. So, so I actually have stepped up my yoga game. But today's guest, she is actually a certified yoga and meditation teacher. She's a fellow LA lady. Her name is Esther Levy. She's the mother of 5 children and the owner of Ujjayi, which we'll explain what that means in a minute, a natural skincare company. As I said, she teaches yoga and meditation, and she's written a book called Interior Designer, Using the 7 Elements of Interior Design to Build an Interior Self, which is so interesting. Esther has launched a wellness platform called Core Kavana, which uses the tools in her book. This free service provides restorative and meditations provided on Zoom daily, and her recorded meditations are available on YouTube. I was supposed to go on and do one of these last night, but we were outside watching the configuration of Jupiter and Saturn merging. So I actually missed her class, but I will do another one next time. Hey, Esther.
Hi, Esther.
Hey. How are you?
We are good. So we're so excited to talk to you. I want to hear about your story and how you created Yujai. What does Yujai mean?
So Ujjayi is actually victorious breath. And the reason I chose that name was, funny enough, we all forget to breathe. I forgot how to breathe. Like, breathing is essential. And, with this fast-paced world that we live in, I noticed that I just wasn't breathing properly. And like the nervous system is like the ignition of a car. And, all the other parts can work really wonderfully, but if you can't get it started, you ain't going anywhere. So, when I started to learn through yoga and meditation and breath work, how to breathe properly, I learned that was the piece that was missing to supporting my nervous system. And, I've built other companies before and other things, and I really wanted to create something wholesome. So I wanted that daily reminder, and just like anything else, it becomes the topic of conversation. People are like, what is that? I can't pronounce it. How do you say it? And I was like, and people are like, are you sure that's a good name? I was like, yeah, because I'm going to mess with people's heads. I'm kidding. It becomes a topic of conversation, and it's basically the focal point of everything I do, is the consistency of taking in generous, wholesome breaths and connecting with my body.
So you weren't always...
That's the long way around.
Right. So you weren't always this way. And I want to hear how you got to this point where you came to this realization. You write in your book, you were very stressed. Stressed, I thought, I had no control over that. I believe stress was embedded in the fabric of life. It wasn't tangible to me, but stress did slow me down here and there. And sometimes I'd experience setbacks like low blood pressure, migraines, a lump in my breast, arthritis, nerve damage. I couldn't open a bottle or turn a doorknob. As an analytical person, I had no idea how to navigate something I couldn't touch and organize. So I took the appropriate medication. I had no relationship with my internal self and built a powerful mind that dominated pushing my body past my body's cry for help. So what led up to this point that you were under this tremendous amount of stress that led you to the realization you are from a big family?
Yeah.
Yes. And a Hasidic family, right? No, not bells. I thought I saw bells.
I come from a Sephardic home.
Okay.
And I actually chose to be Hasidic. I just love the organization of how things, again, I'm an analytical person. It's much easier for me to engage the mind. And I found that there was a great support system and there was something that worked. My family wasn't so happy about it, that I chose that route, but it was the best decision in my life that I ever made. So I'll take you through it. So like in American society, again, I'm an LA girl. I have the luxury to dream about anything I ever wanted to do and be. And the recipe to do and be is hard work, as I was told. Mm-hmm. So all I needed to do was work hard enough and I'd get there. So I thought, all right, let me just get to work. And I began and I just started working and I just kept on piling the work on. And, I was making a ton of money. At the time I was a hairdresser, I was a sheitelmacher, and I was a party planner. And I lived in England at the time. Mm-hmm. I made more money than most people can dream about in a lifetime. I was able to buy a house and do all sorts of things. But again, it was taking a toll on my body. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't finding there was this certain lack of satisfaction. There was so much external satisfaction and no internal satisfaction. And I could see something was missing.
Mm-hmm. Now, you before you go on, you got married fairly young.
Yeah, I got married young.
And you went to have 5 kids pretty quickly.
By the age of 27, I had 5 kids. But for me, that was no big deal. Like, kids is the easy part for me. Because when you come from a big, like, I have 3 times the siblings. Right. So it's not, sometimes people are shocked and I'm like, well, you do what you know. And I know how to raise kids. That's something I know how to do. Because
you were really well. You were the oldest, because I counted in the book.
I'm the oldest. Yeah.
Of 15.
14,
including yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Oldest of 14. So definitely helping raise kids was something that was in your wheelhouse and something you knew how to do.
I've never been there. I haven't had a year in my life. Just think about this. I haven't had a year in my life without children in it. Wow. That's it. Like, children is the makeup of the lifestyle,
Right.
Like, a lot of people will kind of set their life up, their home up for 5 years of children, 20 years of children. For us, it's like always and forever. Wow. kind of deal. I helped deliver some of my siblings.
Oh, wow.
Every single one of my mother stopped having kids when I finished. So basically I went and I've helped deliver plenty of babies out there. But even my own siblings, I've been there and I've been able to, just be there at the delivery and,
right.
It's part of the makeup. So it's not to me, it's a beautiful thing. And it's something that I really, really love.
Right. So you're young, married, 5 kids, living in England, wearing lots of different hats, and you are stressed out to the max. And what happened when you were pregnant with your youngest?
So when I was pregnant with my youngest, I got to the realization that it was more, because again, everything starts in the mind. Everything begins in the mind. So I started to realize that I was following a certain set of, I guess, a structure or a formula without consulting my body. So I kept on ignoring my body's signals. I was like, I can take pain. I can deliver without taking an epidural. I can handle pain. pain's not a big deal. It's just like, it just gets in the way. So, but it was my nervous system that was shutting down. And I was eating healthier at the time. I was already, some of my kids had health sensitivities and stuff. And I was like, I was eating healthier, but I was like, okay, things happen, and it's just, you get older and things happen. And I didn't realize that it was like, my body it was a cry for help. My body's like, no, you're not okay. And when my mind realized that, like, my whole life was about, I need to be successful. Like, the money piece was the everything piece, right? Is going to solve all my problems. And I got there and it didn't do anything. Literally nothing at all. My body went into shock. It was like over a 10-day period where I was like really contemplating it. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm not happy. Like, I'm really not happy. This is, I'm in a space where, like, you can never, I was in a field where I've met so many lovely people, but like in party planning, let's say, you can't make people happy. People are never happy. And there's so much food that goes to waste.
Right.
So much food that goes to waste. So I was like, it was a wasteful experience. And
you ended up in the hospital.
Yep. My body shut down completely and I had 3 hours to live.
Wow. Oh. So, okay. So you came out of this, and was that when you had the realization you needed to change how you approach things, your lifestyle? You moved back to LA.
So I had 7 months of bed rest because I was 2 months pregnant. So I went from being extremely active to having to do nothing at all, and the doctors having no diagnosis for me. I was like, just give me a diagnosis. Give me a diagnosis and I'll deal with it. Like, I'll shove the pills in, I'll get going. And they're like, nope, it's related to stress. And I was like, what? Because again, I was 27. They're like, they did all the scans they can do. They thought it might be a heart attack, all sorts of things. And they're like, nope, you're 100% healthy. This is all due to stress. I was like, you could die from stress. And they're like, yep. Like, literally that's, and then I kind of, my body went into this space where I was like, oh my gosh, this can happen again. But I didn't have a strong enough relationship with my body to know what would be the onset. Now I know, but then I had no clue because I was like, I didn't know what the signals were.
Right. So Andrea, we talk a lot about stress and how it affects the body. So is this like, how could she have stopped this earlier?
Well, this is an extreme. I think a lot of people end up with a lot of physical symptoms from stress, or they might have a predisposition to something. And obviously stress never makes it better. It only makes it worse. So actually I was going to ask you, like, looking back, what were some of the warning signs that you just like pushed aside or kind of, it's okay, I'll just like deal with it. I'll just like move on past it.
So the nerves in my hands gone completely. Mm-hmm. Emotionally, I know now that it has to do with emotionally carrying stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyone that the nerves kind of start going in their hands. Cause I'm like, I talk about the teeth all the time and people will say, oh, my teeth are decaying. I've eaten too much sugar. I was like, your nerves are connected to your teeth.
Right.
You're also struggling with, usually when you go to the dentist with some big situation, there's usually a huge stressful component that's connected. So I had a massive tooth issue. My hands were going. And then, and then I got numbness in my left hand, my left arm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I also love hearing those things about the carrying things, and that's why I find all that so interesting and so fascinating, and how the mind affects the physical being. Okay. So you were on bed rest and you went from a very, very busy life to a not very busy life.
Mm-hmm. And then I had to really like sit with myself. I had to sit with myself and be like, okay, now what? Like, because I was so used to solving problems. So I went from doing so much to doing nothing at all. And in the method that I've learned is it's about rest and digest. It's about learning. When I say to people, you need to learn to do nothing at all. They're like, well, what do you mean? So every time there's a problem, they want to solve it with an active component rather than a rest and digest component. Most people in life suffer from emotional indigestion. We take on so much and the body can't digest it.
Yeah.
So the thing is that it's very important to take time to rest and digest. And most people's rest and digest is more stimulation rather than rest.
Right.
So it's either watching TV or going to do a crazy workout or going to hang out with friends, which is all a stimulant. It's another stimulant. And what we're trying to do, it's like saying eating a 4-course meal and then going to prep for a marathon. Your stomach's gonna hurt. Something's not gonna work.
Right.
You know, what we need to, but the thing is, for so many of us, it's about, okay, there's a problem. Let's find an active solution. So how I explain it, and this is from my teachers, is when you put in effort, when it comes to like the rest and digest component, it's like asking a blind man to put an effort to see.
Okay, explain
Put in
more.
effort.
Yeah.
No matter how much effort he puts in, he won't be able to see. And for whenever we're struggling, we're always using an active component rather than stepping away, consulting the body and relaxing the muscles. So like massages, yoga, anything that we go and do, you know, the chiropractor, it's all stuff that if your body's in the right position where it knows how to relax, those muscles will naturally start to relax on their own. But they're all like we do a lot of damage control in the American culture. Instead of coming from a place of let's take all the time in the world to do it right, we're like, we'll do it and we'll deal with the consequences later. And it's the same thing with women and their skin. You know, a lot of women are like, I rather get Botox than eat healthy. You know, I rather deal with the wrinkles than, you know what I mean? Instead of just being like, just relax, you know, just and these are conversations I have all day with women. You know, just relax into it. And, for anyone that's been taking my classes, they always say to me that like now when they go to the chiropractor, they go for a massage, there aren't that many knots going on in the back, in their body, because they like yoga is everything really leads up to relaxing the mind. So there's an inner part of your skin and an outside part of your skin, right? So if you take your finger and you tap between your eyebrows, that's enough to create consciousness between your eyebrows. Now, when you get into a yoga pose, what you're trying to do is awake your body, awaken it, because for most of us, we're not conscious of those specific spaces, like stress in our hips or our hips. We're not even aware that it's there. Or, you know, our shoulders or our back, our legs. And when we go into this space where, so if you just learn to sit and meditate, what you're doing is you automatically learn to scan your body and release that tension without it. But most people don't have enough training to understand how to relax the body. So yoga, dance, any fitness kind of things can really help with that. The thing is that there's this really fine line of where it ends up being zen or stress. Mm-hmm. It's this fine line.
Right.
It all has to do with the breathing.
I feel like there's so many things about me that you just described. I'm the type that if there's a problem, I need to solve it. And I know that sometimes really I should hold back because I do it with my kids. I do it with my husband. Like, you know, okay, oh, you just said this. Okay, let's take care of it. And I also, when I was doing the yoga all this time, or when I tried meditating, my mind is still going. My brain is still talking. It's very hard for me to shut down that internal dialogue that's constantly going on. And I know that's part of meditation, is to accept the thoughts and push them, you know, let them be. But I have a hard time getting past that.
A simple analogy that I give is like going to the grocery store and grabbing a cart. you see a lot of things when you go through the aisles. Doesn't mean you have to put everything into the cart.
Right.
The thing is, we are obese as a culture, as in not only physically obese. Everything we see, we think we have to take in. We're taking in. Instead of observing it, we're absorbing it. So in my book, I talk about Shabbos. I talk about, what the actual concept of being a Jew is. And I'm like, you're not Shabbos, you're observant, right? So you're observing Shabbos. So if you think about what the Shomer Shabbos, Shomer Torah Mitzvos, you are not the act itself. What you are is the observer, right? In yoga, we say the observer changes the observed. And that makes no sense to somebody that doesn't understand that it's the observer. But when we understand the practice of Judaism, we are not Shabbos. What part of Shabbos are you? Are you the food? Are you what are you? Are you the dress? Are you the candles? Are you the challah? Like, what are you? You're the consciousness you bring to it. So it's not like the more you eat, the better you've kept Shabbos. It's the more you're aware of it that you are Shabbos. So going back to the word shomer is somebody that watches, right? The observer. Think of a security guard. If a security guard does his job properly, what happens? Nothing happens. So the point is that that's the point. It's understanding that we are, as a culture, we've absorbed rather than observed. So when you start understanding that your thoughts are supposed to be observed rather than absorbed, that means that everything comes into your mind. You don't need to put it into that shopping cart. You can just leave it exactly where it is and go for what you're going for. But it's all a discipline. It's getting to know ourselves.
Right. It's like everybody says you practice yoga or you practice meditation. It's something that you have to work on work. I don't know if work's the correct word, but it's something that does take time. And it's not like if you pick up weights, you can just start lifting weights, but to get to that point where it's going to be helpful. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you I would think like for a lot of people, quieting their mind can be very difficult because I think you probably, if you can talk about this, people are very uncomfortable being with themselves, I think, at times, a lot of times. They don't do it. They're just constantly going from A to B to C to D. And it's uncomfortable for them to just sit with themselves. Or sometimes they feel like maybe they're not worth it or they're not a high priority.
Everything is a chemical training, a neurochemical training. Right. So like a lot of my meditation training was done from neuroscience. Uh-huh. It's not more from like a sit still, but from neuroscience, because neuroscience is one of the areas in science that everybody agrees on. Like there's a unanimous kind of understanding rather than the conflict. That's what I've been taught. So the thing is that what we're trying to do is retrain the brain. Mm-hmm. Now, what I've discovered through my practice and working with others are that the reason most of us have a challenge sitting with ourselves is because of how our brains were wired from a very young age. From a very young age, if you think about it, if you did something wrong in school or at home, the way they'd punish you is by sending you to your room, sending you out of the classroom. If somebody doesn't like you, they create distance between you and them. So your brain automatically starts to wire that being by yourself is connected to error, to doing something wrong.
Right.
So you're like, I don't want to spend time by myself because I did so people aren't even subconsciously aware. They just know that there's a sensation that comes up that's extremely uncomfortable. So when I start working with people, they'll say to me that they start feeling depressed or empty. And I'll say it's actually clarity that they're discovering and peacefulness. And when I explain them this component that I just described to you, they start to think about it. And that's kind of how we can start rewiring the brain, where it's healthy to be by ourselves. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
So that's
okay. I want to transition for a minute because you started talking about your skin and skincare, and Ujjayi is a skincare company.
Yeah.
You have many different products. Some of them use activated charcoal. So I was wondering, can you talk about what is activated charcoal? Why it works, why it helps, why this is what you've chosen to include in your products.
So actually, it goes back to the fitness, the CrossFit thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the lifting weights. I'm going to bring it full circle here. So the reason we created the company was because there was no natural skincare for the fitness industry. Nothing was strong enough, powerful enough to be able to hold a workout or two or entire day. It was very passive. And in the fitness world, there's usually it like works hand in hand where people that are in fitness want to also work on their health and wellness. So they're naturally looking for something that works. So a couple of my friends were like, look, I was making a couple products at the time. And everybody wanted natural deodorant that worked because there was no natural deodorant that actually can take you through a day. So we started sampling. I was like, okay, if you guys want it, I'll make it for you. And I was also working out. So I'm an active, I box and then I CrossFit and like I do like a full day. So because I had the luxury to have this audience, we'd all go into a 90-minute yoga in a hot room, 100 degrees, sweat our brains off, and come out and see what the benefit, like if it worked and it didn't work. And we went through a testing phase first to see. And I realized, okay, so with charcoal, so charcoal has like it's like antibacterial, but it also has, it fights odor 1,000 times more than anything else. So it's about getting, again, that mixed with other ingredients kind of helps with some of the odor.
Okay, so activated charcoal is actually, it's a fine powder that's made from a lot of different things. I'm not sure where you source yours from. They could be made from bones, coconut shells, coal, olive pits. There are a lot of different places. And it's processed at very high temperature. And this makes the charcoal more porous and it is negatively charged. So the negative charge and the porous texture helps trap toxins. And I'm guessing that's what works with the deodorant and why if it's...
So, yeah, it's 1,000 times more absorbent of odor than anything else.
So,
yeah.
So that's the I guess, a little bit of the science behind how the activated charcoal works. Okay.
But I was also looking for a foundation, something that was very grounding. I found that a lot of skincare companies work with... like it's a lot lighter and softer and gentler. And I felt like I needed, again, for my lifestyle, I was looking for a support system. So this was about me and about my skin and a support and real support. So I went for darker notes. Like I went for darker notes in different areas. So like even with some of the scents, they're darker, they're deeper. I work from an emotional space where even when we pour, we meditate. A lot of the people that work with me are yoga teachers, meditation teachers, baristas. We play sound bath and we pour. We're all in a meditative space where the whole entire thing is a meditation. But we're all coming from a very like a deeper space. There's this thing of like, I was looking for a support system. I was looking for something that functioned properly. The thing about, so then charcoal really spoke to me. Like I like, also this is the thing also, with things like charcoal and clay, a lot of people are ingesting them. But from where I was learning, it's not that healthy too, because by ingesting these are not things that your body can process, digest internally.
So is activated charcoal safe?
So it's safe externally, even though a lot of people will say ingesting it is okay. There's a certain residue and heaviness that when digesting it is not as healthy. Like I always recommend not ingesting it.
Right. Yeah. Well, first of all, it can interfere with certain medications, so people should know that. And also, there could result in constipation and black stools. So those are common side effects of activated charcoal.
Right. And I looked up, it was like a review article about activated charcoal. And basically it said, unless you're in the emergency room getting your stomach pumped because because they think, overdosed or you took certain poisons or whatever. Anyway, exposed, do not ingest it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they make drinks nowadays with charcoal and all the rest. And I think that the reason a lot of this sells and there's a market for it is because people are looking for the intensity.
Right.
The less that they're in touch with themselves, the more of an intense of an experience they're looking for externally.
Right.
So usually that's a mirror of somebody running from themselves.
Right.
The more intense you want to feel. I mean, that's where like drinking and drugs and getting high comes in, really, because people are looking, instead of kind of the space where they're healing, they want to escape into something more intense. Right. So there's always a market for.
That's such a deep statement to unpack right there. That how, people are constantly trying to distract themselves so they don't have to deal with what's really going on in their lives.
Exactly. And I think go ahead. And I think the other thing is they want a quick fix. People in the States, they want a very quick fix, versus, a lot of better than I do, but mind meditation, yoga comes out of the more Eastern tradition where it's more about sort of the long term. You're in it for the long term. Yeah. Not to some like quick, some quick fix.
So what happens is that I always say to somebody, like, even with a headache, you have plenty of choices. You can take an Advil. You might be missing minerals. You might need a nap. But it's really about the choices of like, how engaged are you with your body? And I take an Advil when I need one. Right. I'm not somebody that doesn't, but I am aware that there are signals now that if my head is hurting, either I've overextended myself in an area or it's a sign that I need to slow down somewhere. I'm stressed in a certain area. The thing is that people aren't the body is designed so beautifully that it lets us know when we have triggers. So I'll tell you something about the deodorant for a second, which is really interesting, is that your armpit is your filter for your liver, kidney, and gallbladder. So people are like, so why does regular deodorant not give us the same signals as natural deodorant? And the thing is, when you're using a proper natural deodorant, it helps extract the toxins properly. So our deodorant helps extract the toxins, and people like around Yontif time or any of my CrossFitters that are lifting weights, they will call me and be like, oh my gosh, my armpit is itching. We get from itching all the way to peeling armpits. And I'll be like, okay, what's going on in your life? And I've had this in my own. So it's like a process. Like it's almost, I tell people it's like a butt, like there's a pH system going on there. Like you got to exfoliate, you got to take care of it. Your armpit starts to talk to you. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't use natural deodorant. I'm allergic to baking soda. I'm like, you're not allergic to baking soda. It's the components of stress that are extracting through your armpit.
Yeah.
So I had one guy he was training for a CrossFit game, and he called me and he's like, my armpits are itchy. And he's like finding that they're getting red. And I said to him, well, what are you doing? And he's bulking up. And basically I let him know that he's taking on too much stress for his body. Mm-hmm. So it's knowing how much you can take, because your body will start to let you know. Right. So the symptoms, whenever those symptoms come around, I always say to people, drink water, try to relax. And when you learn to breathe properly and only take on the stress you need rather than take on voluntary stress, the body will start giving you the signals. And people are like, oh, I can't be bothered. But that's kind of, the full circle of that.
Right. So this is so interesting, because I went over to Esther's yesterday and she gave me some of the deodorant to try and some of the tooth whitening powder that I want to talk about in the next few minutes as well. But I'm going to give the deodorant to my husband. So we're going to conduct a little experiment here to see how that goes, how his body acclimates. Because we hear all the time, people go, oh, natural deodorant, I don't like it. It doesn't work, but it really is working.
It does work.
And that's the problem. So could we talk a little bit about oral hygiene and, why there are chemicals maybe in our toothpaste that we don't want to use, and there are other options for cleaning our teeth and having good dental hygiene.
Yeah. So if you think about fluoride, like there's a lot of things that have been added in the Western world to be compatible with Western practices. So fluoride was invented to help if you're drinking sodas and eating high sugar. Now, if that's not what you're doing, then you don't necessarily need the fluoride in your toothpaste. Now, if you think of, a lot of people think, oh, there's this old world, this old fashioned world. They don't have, like, they didn't brush their teeth. And it's like, if everybody as smart as we think we are, we're stupid at the same time. Like, the older generations had such, like, these amazing techniques. First of all, they weren't as stressed as we were. Second of all, they weren't eating what we were eating. And third of all, they had the most efficient, eco-friendly systems. A lot of what we do is we waste. We waste a lot of energy, emotional space, physical health is all like waste. Like, you think about everybody that's working out, that used to be people working in fields, planting trees, healing themselves emotionally as well as physically and spiritually. Now it's just lifting weights, throwing in earbuds and listening to really, really high intense soundtrack that on its own it speeds up aging because it's a quick like the sound is
stimulating.
At such a quick tempo. Yeah, stimulating.
Yeah.
With all that being said and done, back to oral hygiene. So an older practice was oil pulling,
yes,
which you take some oil, you swish it in your mouth, and it kind of draws out all the toxins. The thing is, when you're using regular toothpaste or teeth whitener, you're also stripping the enamel. Also, it's not as efficient because any bacteria that's left in your mouth, there's only one place for it to go, and that is down into your body, which can cause inflammation. So that's also another area where people, get inflamed. So with our formula, basically it's like a clay formula, where it's calcium infused and it has some charcoal in it. So it draws out some of the bacteria. And basically it's salty and sandy instead of sweet and jelly. And it's a practice, you brush your teeth with it, but it draws out all the toxins and it helps protect your gum line. And it's super efficient. So the thing is also a lot of the things that are out there on the market are all marketing strategies. Everything's about getting you to come back for more. Right. When you do natural practices, a little bit goes a long way. Yeah. So that's kind of something I've learned too, because it's sustainable. A natural life is a sustainable life if you learn about it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I'm going to test that out. Kind of excited. So we have a lot of experiments going on in the Sharfman household now with charcoal deodorant and the tooth whitening powder, and we're going to see how it goes. Esther, thank you so much. I wanted to let everybody know that Esther's book, Ujjayi, Interior Designing, using the 7 elements of interior design to build an interior self. We didn't really get into it very much, but it talks about how some of the elements that people use to design their physical space, we can use to design our interior space as well. It's available on Amazon. Also, check out Core Kavana. It's a free service providing restorative and meditations provided on Zoom daily. And you can also go to YouTube for anything that she's recorded. You can follow her journey on Instagram at Yujai or at Core Kavana. And if you want to check out any of the products that we spoke about, you can also go to UJAYinc.com. That's UJJAYINC.com. So, Esther, thank you so much for joining us today. We learned,
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we learned a lot about a lot of things.
Yes.
Yes.
We covered a lot.
Now we have to go unpack all that and see.
And try it out.
And sit with it.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was our pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you again. Alrighty.
Us too.
And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004.
We are also on Facebook. Search for Let My People Eat Podcast to join the discussion. You can ask questions and suggest topics you'd like us to talk about in future episodes.
If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and tell your friends and family to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Let My People Eat is proud to be part of Jewish Coffee House, where you can find your fill of stimulating podcasts dedicated exclusively to Jewish content.
Please remember that while we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own doctor about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Schartman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us, and go in good health.